Nobody's ever gone overweight by eating too many things like carrots.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Truth Talks, the podcast that brings you real strategies for sustainable fitness transformation. As always, I'm Courtney, and this is my brother, Paris. And, as fitness professionals, I like to think eating healthy is kind of just like a standard of living. But a lot of people think they eat healthy without having like a clear definition of what that means or like how it relates to their fitness goals. So today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into eating healthy, specifically for the context of weight loss. Because I think a lot of people think, if I want to lose some weight, I got to make healthy food decisions. But there's a little bit more to the story than that. We're going to dive into that.
Yeah, or weight loss or fat loss, something under in that bucket. I think a lot of people do say that, right? I eat healthy, right? Or they're frustrated because they're not seeing results, but they're like, but I'm eating healthy, right? And I think we need to first define like what does healthy even mean, because depending on who you ask, there's a bajillion different definitions. It's such a general, like
Yeah.
non-descriptive term, healthy, right? And then secondly is people kind of underestimate the power of getting specific. So there's a difference between eating healthy and eating for a specific goal.
Yes.
That's like a really important thing. And I think that's the missing puzzle piece for a lot of people that are eating healthy but are kind of spinning their wheels, is that they might be eating healthy. It might be true even by my definition of what healthy could mean, but it doesn't mean that you're eating specific to the goal at hand that you're trying
That
to.
reminds me of two scenarios that we typically see when we're talking to people or onboarding new clients. One is people start eating healthier and they start to maybe see, again, today's conversation is about weight loss, but they might see progress towards that goal. And then all of a sudden it slows down. And then they're like, how come I'm not making progress? I'm still eating healthy. And so they get stuck, right? They plateau. That's one scenario. The other
Yep.
scenario we see a lot of the time is people who think, I am eating healthy. How come I'm seeing no progress? Right. And so today's conversation should help identify what the exact challenge is for breaking through in either one of those scenarios, whether you're somebody who maybe saw some progress with weight loss and then kind of stalled, or you're somebody who is struggling to start to see progress. But before we dive into actually understanding, the definition of healthy and how it pertains to specificity and goals, can I show off my t-shirt? I wore this one intentionally for this episode. For
Sure.
those who are
For
watching,
those
this is one of
watching.
my favorite t-shirts that I own. Paris, you want to read it out?
Yeah. So for those who are just listening, it says eat your vegetables, and it's a picture of a broccoli dude who's pretty jacked, flexing and looking pretty
Yeah, I had to
intimidating.
wear it for this episode because when we talk about eating healthy, I think the first thing we kind of think of is vegetables, right? Like
Yeah, I
eat your
guess so.
greens. You think
Yeah.
about from when you're a kid, like healthy eating is getting your spinach in, eating the green stuff, eating the veggies, right? So that's a starting point to eating healthy. But what else do we actually want to talk about when we're talking about defining healthy?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. And I think if I were to kind of generally give my thoughts on what I would classify as a healthy diet, I would say it would be one that does have a large variety of micronutrients. So, the vitamins and minerals that are often found in things like fruits and veggies. So, we're definitely including a good variety of those. And it does have a variety of, potentially different protein sources that would give us some other nutrients, for example, like some salmon once a week and red meat every once in a while as well. So you're kind of eating a
Mm-hmm.
good spectrum of nutrients is
Yes.
what I would say. Okay, that's like one of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest
Yeah.
boxes I would check. And a large portion of your intake, yes, coming from
When you said
nutrient
large
dense
spectrum, you
foods.
reminded me of like kind of one of the themes, I guess, or the ways of thinking about healthy eating that was presented in one of our nutrition certifications, which is eat the rainbow. I think it sounds so simple, but I
Mhm.
really actually think
So Skittles, should I go and eat a bag of and
go
eat a
eat a
bag of
bag of
Skittles?
Skittles. Healthy, eat the rainbow. I guess, yeah. There's a lot of like
Yeah,
things that are colorful but artificially colorful. We'll save that conversation.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah, the
naturally colored.
natural rainbow. Eat the natural rainbow, right? Like we want to include things that are, the greens, but also like I buy this like red cabbage because I'm like I don't eat that color from most other things, right? It's like this purpley color, right? Or like apples, bananas, oranges, fruit. Fruit is so colorful, like those sorts of things, and I think that's really important. So it does start there, right, with the spectrum, with the range of things that you're including in your diet across colors and otherwise. You also, though, mentioned like different sources of protein, for instance, right? And
Mhm,
yeah, I
mhm.
think protein is, people think of protein sources giving us protein, but we also get a lot of vitamins from different protein sources. For those who do eat animal sources of protein. You have like your B vitamins, or like when you said red meat, everyone associates that with iron, right? Or your fish with, omega 3s and other healthy fat sources, things like that. So we definitely need to be considering that as part of a healthy diet. But if you are somebody who doesn't eat animal based proteins, then maybe you have to think about taking this up with a medical provider, but like supplementation of specific vitamins, or making sure you're covering those bases.
Yes.
But you can also get a lot of, this is where I'm going with this, is like there's a lot of nutritional value in like plant based proteins as well. And the number one thing I think of when I think about like lentils and beans and other legumes is like fiber. Like I think the when I think of a
Hmm.
healthy diet, checking the fiber box is like one of the biggest things that you can really
Hmm.
do, because it has a positive impact on
Hmm.
like
Yes.
cardiovascular health, cholesterol levels, like just general like digestive system, like that. Yeah, everything goes on
Digestion.
and
Yeah.
on and on. And it's also why I have most of my clients are currently tracking their fiber, because when they're reporting on their fiber, it's a good indicator to me of, are you getting your fruits and veggies? But also, are you
Hmm.
eating starchy carbs, which also have a huge role to play in terms of an overall health.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because yeah, I know you're good with the fiber. I typically go in
Hmm.
and chronometer and see like if they're eating enough fruits and veggies, and I just kind of have my general rule of thumb of like, roughly one serving of fruit and veggies per 1,000 calories. That's kind of my rule, and I consider a serving somewhere around 80 to 100 grams, or like one banana. But so I could to kind of specify maybe a bit of what we're talking about. It's okay. We have a good variety of nutrients in our diet and a good
Hmm.
variety of just food sources overall. We're sticking to mostly nutrient dense,
Whole
kind of
foods.
quote unquote whole foods. We're eating sufficient amount of protein, and we're making sure that the wide spectrum of micronutrients is kind of covered for us. The other thing I'm going to include in this is that also the diet that allows you to maintain a healthy body
Hmm.
weight, because I think people would really, if you do look at the data, like being overweight is so bad for you for pretty much every single thing. So even if you ate quote unquote unhealthy and did the opposite of what we just said, but you maintained a healthy body weight range,
Oh,
that in itself, you would still be way healthier than if you quote unquote ate healthy, but you were
that's a
significantly
really
overweight.
interesting POV. And I think some people would think it's
Yeah.
controversial, but it actually makes a lot of sense, because when we think about health, what we're thinking about is positive health indicators, right? Positive health indicators. And when you start to introduce excess body weight, specifically excess body fat, and you start to compromise things like your ability to move your body, right? Because that is a reality for a lot of people,
Hmm.
functional movement, or other, whether that's blood sugar issues and risk of diabetes, whether that's cardiovascular health outcomes. Like you start to then see
Hmm.
excess body weight, or what we would call adiposity in the scientific language, does have an impact on those positive health outcomes. Not now, it's different per person, but it's something to be very aware of in terms of how could carrying excess body fat actually impact my health.
Yeah, and it's really shocking if you if you see kind of like the increased
Hmm.
risk of literally everything, uh, in
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
of
yeah,
disease states and stuff like that, and even like
yeah.
mobility and everything. So I think that's something. But the funny thing is, though, if you check the boxes as we said with all the things I just listed and Corey listed with the fiber and everything, then most likely you won't find
Hmm.
yourself at a higher
Most
body weight,
likely,
or
most
in terms of
likely. Hmm.
most likely. But we'll talk about some nuance. But you have you are at a greater probability that you won't find yourself in a place of being greatly overweight or obese.
So why do we typically, and again, remember we said from the beginning, there's two scenarios. There's people who start making progress with healthy eating and see progress in their body composition. There
Hmm.
are others who don't, who eat healthy and don't see progress. So we're going to get to that as well. But let's talk about why there is, I'm going to say, a correlation oftentimes between healthy eating as we've just defined it, and and like reduced body fat or weight loss.
Yeah, I think the main one is just let me say this: nobody's ever gotten overweight by eating too many things like carrots. It's not like, "Oh my gosh, I can't stop eating carrots." And I love carrots, trust me. My friends always make fun of me because that's what I used to have when I came back from the bar, even when I was like, in
Like,
my
when I
early
lived
20s.
downtown Toronto and we'd come back from, like, doing whatever, it'd be a later night, and you'd, like, go into my fridge and grab a cucumber, start eating the whole cucumber.
Yeah, yeah. But like nobody's like, I can't help myself. I've eaten like
Yeah.
17 cucumbers, you know? But if you have French fries, you're easy to eat the whole
Mhm.
bag or a bag of chips, right? So I think the thing is like they fill you up and they're far less palatability in terms of palatability compared to like
Yeah, yeah.
junkier foods, quote unquote, right? So I think it's and by that I mean they're less tasty comparatively to like these very calorie dense, foods.
When we're trying to lose weight, one of the things we have to be mindful of is overeating on calories, right? And that has to do with both calorie density of foods and the portion size of those foods, right? So I'm going to try to streamline what you're saying because I know where you're getting to.
Yeah, yeah, go
When
for
we
it.
think
Yeah.
about weight gain or trying to take off that weight, because we're talking about weight loss in today's conversation, you need to be mindful of how many calories you're intaking, right? Because weight gain comes from eating excess calories and weight loss comes from reducing your calorie intake. That's a simplified version, right? So when you are eating foods that are hyper palatable, like the chips, the french fries, the cookies, you can do two things very easily. You can eat more of them, right? In terms of because they taste so good, you just keep going, and also, they are calorically dense. So, a smaller serving size has greater calories. So, that's why the calories can add up really, really fast. Now, the inverse of that, of what you're saying, is like when
Yes.
you're choosing carrots or cucumber, even if you love carrots like you do, Paris, you're probably not going to eat that same amount of calories worth of carrots. So, by eating a quote unquote healthy diet, whether that's, nutrient dense options and things like that, oftentimes you naturally moderate your calorie intake as a result, which is why weight loss can be a lot easier because you're full or you're satisfied or you have stopped eating without going overboard on the calorie intake or by naturally I'm
Yes.
going to use the word moderating again because I don't like restricting, but you are moderating your calorie intake as a result.
Exactly. And even if we kind of as a visual comparison, I think we've showed like a,
Mm,
bowl of strawberries before compared to, whatever else. And you can see if we take 500 calories of strawberries. That is like a mountain of strawberries. Like you will
yeah.
not be able to eat that even if, you tried. You would be so
Hmm.
stuffed, it'd be uncomfortable. Like you wouldn't be able to do it. But if you give 500 calories of, I don't know, cookies, I don't know about you. I could
Yeah.
eat that
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
30
Yeah.
seconds. Like, so it's just the propensity to overeat when things taste good and are very calorie dense, as Courtney was saying,
Mhm.
is just
Yep.
a
And
lot
we did that
higher.
whole
Yeah.
episode on like how you can manage hunger when you're dieting. And that's where we talked about
Yes.
examples like that. And it's called volume eating and food swaps and stuff. So I'll link that in the description below for anybody who's interested in tuning into that. But that's the first reason why eating healthier can make weight loss easier and why people in that first scenario we outlined
Mhm.
at the top do see progress when they start eating healthier. The second thing I want to bring up is related to that, but that's satiety. So not only is it that, hey, I'm choosing foods that naturally moderate my calorie intake, but it's also the satiety that comes from two aspects of our definition of healthy eating. The first is protein and the second is fiber. You want to expand on that?
Yeah, higher fiber foods make you more full, I guess, and protein is the most satiating macronutrient. So you're gonna feel full by having a higher protein diet. But also, like the foods that have a lot of fiber, sometimes also have a lot of water too. So it also just that makes you more full too. So
Mhm. And that's what we see with ultra processed foods, which neither one of us is against by any means, but they have less water content, so they are less filling, which is also why they're more calorie dense because of the space that they take up doesn't include water, right? So
yeah,
amazing. So hopefully that starts to
exactly.
provide some context in terms of why healthy eating does make a difference for weight loss, right? If you are more satisfied, you are less hungry. You are, moderating your calorie intake by choosing foods that are not that calorie dense. Naturally, you're gonna be have an easier time putting yourself in a calorie deficit. So even somebody who's like not tracking their calories, for example, if you shift some of the patterns of how you eat to focus on lean protein sources, high fiber starches, and lots of fruits and veggies, if you were to swap like one plate for another and your plate started to look like that definition of healthy, but previously it was like, I don't know, a Big Mac combo, you're slicing the calories in half, if not by more than half, right? So you don't even have to be tracking your
Yeah.
calories to start to put yourself in a calorie deficit. And that is most effective for people who are starting with weight to lose, right? The more weight you have to lose, the more progress you can start to see by making some of those adjustments because your natural calorie intake will go down significantly. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. You can get the ball kind of rolling with things, even just by making these kind of strategic changes. Yeah.
So let's pivot now into though when that's not enough, right? Because like we said off the top, we hear it from people all the time. I'm eating healthy, but I hit a plateau, or I'm eating healthy and I'm not seeing any weight loss. And there are aspects of our definition of healthy eating that do not necessarily align with a weight loss goal. So that's what we want to unpack next is really just
hmm
talking about those specific circumstances.
Yeah. I think we'll just start by saying, like, as I said at the beginning of this, is there's a big difference between eating healthy and eating for a specific goal. There's some crossover. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely a lot of crossover, actually, you'll find, but one is not synonymous with the other. Like me eating for what's called healthy doesn't mean I'm going to reach whatever goal I have, because I'm technically eating healthy whether I'm in
Mm,
a building phase, gaining weight, whether I'm maintaining weight, or when I'm trying to
good
lose
point.
body fat and lose weight. And all those three instances, I'm still technically eating healthy. So then something has to be
Mm,
going on the sidelines for that change. Something has to change if
mhm.
I'm going in
Yep.
three different kind of directions. So I think one of the biggest things is that when it comes to chasing a specific goal with body composition, losing fat, specifically that we're talking about here, it's a game of numbers. And if things are not quantified, then you can eat healthy all you want. But if the numbers aren't playing in your favor, like, it's not going to
When
happen.
we talk about the numbers, we are talking about calorie intake, right? And one of the reasons why we
hmm
said weight loss can be easier when you eat healthy is because you choose foods that are naturally less calorically dense. There are a number of healthy foods though that are calorically dense. And it's a reminder to us off the top is
hmm
like calories are not inherently bad. Like we need calories. Our bodies live
hmm
off calories.
Yeah.
And a lot of calories we consume are accompanied by nutrients. The challenge though is when you are trying to lose weight and you need to be moderating your calories, relying on healthy foods, quote unquote healthy foods that do have a lot of calories and aren't as filling can be challenging. And here's the top three culprits. Are you ready for it?
hmm
Okay.
hmm
Nuts
Yeah.
and nut butters, olive oil,
Yes.
and
100%.
I'm going to say avocado. Do you have another one you want to
Okay,
add to
yeah.
that?
The only other thing I was gonna say, like, things like hummus or
Ooh,
spreads that people
that's
might
yeah,
think are,
that's a good point.
you
That's
know
a
what I
good one
mean?
too. So those like let's
But
call it
but
healthy
yeah.
snacks. I'm actually going to say healthy snacks, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
each of those
yeah,
three things, nuts, amazing. They do have some fiber content, very healthy source of fats. Olive oil, healthy source of fats. Again, Paris and I, if you guys don't know, we are Greek. We are not anti olive oil. It's in our blood. Like
yeah.
literally, I'm sure if you took a test tube
Yeah,
of my blood, it'd be half
yeah.
olive oil. Okay. And then the third thing, the avocado is a great source of fiber in addition to healthy fats. I think a lot of people know it's healthy fat. Not a lot of people realize it's actually a great source of fiber. But when we load up on all of those things, the numbers add up. The numbers components add up, right? So before I let you speak, because I'm rambling, I'm going to just share a highlight from a conversation that I had with a client this week.
Mhm,
Okay. So we said we're
mhm,
going to start, noting our food, understanding like, okay, what portion sizes are we eating of different things? And 2 weeks ago when we onboarded, she told me, she's like, I eat healthy. I eat healthy. Yes, I snack in the nighttime. And she was wondering, like, is it the fact that I snack at night? That's why I can't lose weight because I'm eating healthy. And we started to uncover. I said, okay, let's just make some notes. Like, when are you eating? But also, what are you eating at those times? And so, sure enough, this week we're reviewing, and I'm looking at a snack that she had at nighttime, and it was 100 grams of nuts, mixed nuts. And 100 grams of mixed nuts for somebody who isn't familiar is maybe like half a cup, three-quarters of a cup. Like it's not like a massive, massive portion size. And what we started to
mhm, mhm. Like, you
yeah,
could take
yeah,
it in
yeah,
your
yeah, for
hands
sure.
if you, like,
For
wanted to,
sure,
like, carry it
absolutely,
somewhere.
you could
Yeah,
fit it in
yeah.
your hands. So it's not, an unrealistic amount to eat in one sitting, right? But I said, let's start logging some of these foods in your tracking app so you can understand what the contribution of these foods is to your total day in terms of calories and protein and things like that. That 100-gram serving of nuts that she had as her evening snack, so on top of, her meals of the day and everything, was 600 calories. 600 and
Yeah.
she literally said to me, she's like, 600 calories? And I said, yeah. Now look, it's
Yeah.
not that we don't want to be eating nuts, but I said, what if we change that portion to 30 grams or 40 grams? We just saved ourselves 400 calories.
Mhm,
And she was
mhm,
astounded.
mhm.
But that's also why I advocate for people tracking their food. And it's not because you need to be super
Yeah.
meticulous, but it's because understanding the numbers and awareness really
Awareness.
can change the level of frustration you have and the level of understanding of like
Mhm.
why you're maybe not reaching your goals.
Yeah. Listen, everybody tracks all these metrics at work, with their business, with their finances, like all these things. Then, but for some reason, it's like, oh, well, it doesn't make sense to track my food. It's like, wait, hold on a second.
Mhm.
Like, what? It's like, okay, well, what if you didn't track any numbers and all those other
Right.
things I talked about? Would that make sense?
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't, right? So I think it's a very good point, Courtney. Even like with peanut butter, like with that joke where it's like if you've actually weighed
Oh,
out a
it's so
tablespoon of peanut butter
soul
and seen
crushing.
what it
So
looks like,
crushing. Yeah.
right? You don't really know, right? But so even the difference, if let's say even just like lazy tracking, like let's say I just inputted
Mhm.
like peanut butter, like 2 tablespoons, right? And I didn't actually measure anything. I could be off by like 300 calories. If I actually said, well, this looks like a tablespoon, boom. This looks
Right.
like another tablespoon, boom. And then next, thing you know, my estimation is way off. And if I do that more than once a day,
Mhm.
all of a sudden
Mhm.
I am like 600 calories higher than I thought I was. And same thing with the olive oil. I had a client, I won't name names, but one of my clients that still with us this day, but also coached when I was much younger, and his mom was prepping his meals, and eventually, we like the math wasn't adding up. But we're like, what is going on here? Turns out her olive oil serving of what she thought was like a tablespoon or whatever was a lot more than a tablespoon. All right, and two of his meals a day were being
Like
made like this.
Mediterranean area European descent, right? So a lot of us who come from that region
Yes,
have this
exactly.
challenge.
So, it was a very generous portion of olive oil being created, and what happens is that it can easily put you from a deficit to
Mhm.
maintenance
Mhm.
or in a surplus now. So, I think it's really important to know, especially with these calorie dense food choices, doesn't matter if they're healthy or not, quote unquote. Like it's a game of numbers when we're talking a lot of times about reaching a specific goal, and we have to know our numbers.
Mhm. 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 And when there are health benefits to some of these foods, your job as a responsible adult who is feeding themselves is to understand the appropriate quantities. It's not to cut them out entirely. I have
Mm.
to say that, right? Because, like,
Yeah,
there are health promoting
yeah,
benefits of all of these foods, but it's your responsibility to understand how they fit into your total day so that you're prioritizing the nutrient dense foods, prioritizing, when they have your calories have to come from somewhere. They got like so prioritize,
yeah.
the nutrient dense foods, but make sure you understand the quantities in which you're consuming them and balance that out with other decisions throughout the day, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Like I just started my cut 2.5 weeks ago, and like yesterday I had both avocado and peanut butter, and I had peanut
Mhm.
butter twice, right? So it's like I will be getting very lean in the next few weeks, relative to like average leanness, and like I will not
Right.
wipe out any of those foods. I just need to know how they are incorporated into my daily kind of allotment. And then you guys would again be probably surprised on my like higher calorie days that I have on the weekends, like what kind of inclusions I have. Like I do still focus primarily on these quote unquote healthy food choices, but like it's not irregular for me to, as I always say on this podcast, my
Mhm.
Rice Krispie Squares, my Jolly Ranchers, and right now I'm on a
Mm,
non-alcoholic beer kick. It's like I don't know, is non-alcoholic beer like super healthy? I
I
don't
think it's
know.
just
It's just
neutral.
barley, whatever. There's no alcohol,
Yeah.
so it's just
Yeah.
it is what it is. So, but it's like it doesn't mean that, but it just goes to show that like healthy and specific for a goal are have some overlap, but
They're
it's
not the same
not
thing.
they're not the
Yep,
same thing.
absolutely.
So,
So
anyways,
you can be
yeah,
eating healthy and not making progress towards your weight loss goals because you do not understand how those healthy food choices contribute to your calorie intake. It's a reality. But
mm,
like I said, as part of eating like a
yeah,
responsible adult, please do not also I've used this line before. I'm gonna say it again. You can lose weight eating unhealthily, right? Or like not including
yeah,
healthy foods in your
yeah,
diet. If I really wanted to, when I start my fat loss phase next week, if I really wanted to, I could do it with protein shakes and Oreos. But I'm going to be so hungry, like we said, right? Off the top.
yeah,
And also, I'm not going to be, when we think about fueling your body, the micronutrients are a very important part of that. Right. So that is not
mhm,
a smart decision for me. So we need to make sure that both sides of the equation are accounted for. Right. If you have a weight loss goal, do not walk away from this conversation going like, oh, as long as I hit my calorie target, it doesn't even matter if I eat healthy. No, of course, like health,
mhm,
like the whole purpose behind a fitness journey is really health. Let's be honest. Like it's health and aesthetics or other
mhm,
things too. But
mhm,
if you're not healthy, nothing else really matters.
yeah,
You need to eat
yeah,
with healthy food decisions in mind, but you also need to
mhm,
eat with calorie friendly decisions in mind or a calorie target in mind. Those two things go together.
mhm,
And when you are, I'm just going to throw it out there, when you are thinking about calorie intake, tracking your food, like you've just said, it helps immensely. And I do want to shout it out because we did
Mhm.
do an episode on do you need to track your food? So I'm going to link that one below as well. Okay. So before we
Yeah.
wrap up for today, hopefully, it's actually before I move into the next section, anything you want to call out in terms of for those people who are like, I'm not making progress towards my weight loss goal, even though I'm eating healthy. We talked about, calorie dense healthy food choices, things like that. Anything else that you think is a factor there?
It just like eating healthy tells me nothing about your diet, especially since your definition is probably even different than the
True.
definition that we
Yeah.
gave,
Yeah. Absolutely.
right? It tells me absolutely nothing. It really doesn't. That's like saying like I'm trying to find an analogy now, but
Oh, yeah. We haven't had an analogy yet today. It's weird for us.
we have an
Mhm.
we need to throw in at least one. Um, hmm. I was gonna say, it's kind of like the same thing as like, oh, I'm working really hard.
Yes.
It's like, well, what are you
Yes.
working hard on? Same thing. Like I'm eating healthy. Well, what does that even mean? And like, it gives me no context if you say you're working hard.
You totally nailed that analogy. Is it you're working a lot of hours? Is it that you're highly stressed? Is it that
Hmm.
you're really, really focused? Is it that, you're feeling the pressure of a boss telling you how to work? I don't know. Like what does working hard mean? Are you physically exerted? Are you mentally
Yeah,
exerted? I
yeah,
don't know, right?
yeah,
Yeah, love that.
exactly.
Nailed that analogy. Amazing. Okay, so there is a clear relationship between eating healthy and caloric intake, but there's also a version of things where people are like, I'm eating healthy, but I'm not losing weight. And I'm going to
Hmm.
sound a little bit blunt for a second, but oftentimes that's not even just about the food selection or the calorie intake that they have. It goes back to again their perception of healthy eating and how consistent they are with that healthy eating. Okay?
Very good choice of words. Yeah.
There's two scenarios I want to call out. Okay? It's not the full picture.
Hmm.
So just like you just completely outlined
Hmm.
how people can say they're eating healthy and not losing weight, but they have no clarity around their definition of healthy, even if we take food choices out of the equation, two things remain. People who say that they are eating healthy and not losing weight, but they're eating healthy Monday to Friday. And then Saturday, Sunday becomes
Hmm.
a series of, let's say, less nutrient dense choices or overeating, eating meals out, lots of takeout, that sort of thing. So that's one version of things.
Yeah. It's like I was good, quote unquote, all week, so I deserve this, or like I earned this.
Yes, exactly. And not to shout us out again, but we
Yeah,
didn't, but we did
yeah,
a whole
yeah.
episode on the challenges of weekends and how that can interfere with your progress, right? So that's something really to keep in mind. Like if your definition of eating healthy is only Monday to Friday, that's your barrier right there. That's one. Second scenario is people who say, I'm eating healthy. I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. But they're eating maybe healthy for their meals, but they're filling in a lot of gaps between the meals with maybe caloric dense
Yeah.
snacks.
Some
Yeah.
snacks. Those are two great things, and that's why we both do. I think a little bit of an eye roll when we hear the healthy thing. It's just like it doesn't give any, it doesn't give any information.
Nope.
Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I think
Like,
I did a post on this
yeah,
around New Year's timing because like everybody starts like not everybody, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people start, the new year with like I'm going to eat healthy this year. And the reason people don't fulfill that resolution is because they don't even know what it means to them. Right? Like if you don't actually even know what
yeah,
it
yeah,
means for
yeah.
you to be like I'm eating healthy, like what does that look like? What does that look like across a typical day? How
Hmm.
consistent is that? What food choices does that involve? What portion sizes does that involve? Like like all those things. You
Yeah.
need clarity on what eating healthy actually is and means to you. Because
Hmm.
even if you're asking
Yep.
for help from somebody and you tell them you eat healthy, why am I not losing weight? They cannot help you if you don't actually know how to describe your own
Yeah.
quote unquote healthy food decision making.
Yeah. It's true. That's very true. And some things that people classify as healthy or unhealthy, like, are just mainstream media that's shoving,
Oh
like,
my God.
their
Yeah.
own narrative for whatever marketing reason, and it doesn't even make any sense, like, the whole seed oils thing being unhealthy, like, I don't know who came up with this, but I don't know what thing is gonna be chosen next. At one point, it was fruits are the reason, like, fruits are bad, and then, like, we're
Hmm.
just hopping from one thing to the next
Hmm.
because people
Hmm.
love demonizing things. So, like, that's why the definition of healthy is so different depending on who you talk to because of all this BS too.
Yep. And you know what? Like sometimes a healthy decision is having some chocolate or having a slice of pizza. Because here's the thing if we have to also consider health in terms of like mental health and well being. And we also have to consider health in terms of like sustainability and the longevity of something, right? So if you have the decision where you're like, you know what, I'm going to have this chocolate bar because it's going to stop me from binging this weekend, that's a healthy decision for you.
Mhm.
Or if you're like, I'm going to have this slice of
Yeah.
pizza because I'm going to enjoy this moment eating a family meal with my kids, but I know why I'm choosing this pizza and I've got other foods to cover my bases of like, fiber and protein and vegetables throughout the day. That's a healthy decision. It's just part of the process, right? Last thing too, just on the mainstream
Yes.
media thing, I think people have been told these narratives for so long about what's unhealthy that they don't not only do they not have a definition for it, but it's not even the truth. Like I had clients who like tracked a couple pieces of Easter chocolate and were shocked at how low calories it was based on the serving they had. Right? People blow the
Mhm,
unhealthy side
mhm,
of things completely out of proportion often as well.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, tracking your food and building that awareness that we've been speaking to isn't just about minimizing the portion sizes of the things that like, are maybe healthy or focusing on those things, but it's also to reduce the stigma around like how quote unquote stereotypically unhealthy options can also impact your weight loss journey because sometimes it's not as huge as you think it is.
Yep. Very
Amazing.
good
Okay.
point.
So
Yep.
if we had to say a takeaway for people, what would be your top 3 takeaways from this episode? The truths. The
Top
truths we
3,
revealed today.
I think top 3 truths are, 1, healthy and specific for a goal in terms of eating have crossover, but they are not the same. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, everybody has a different definition of healthy. So saying you eat healthy means absolutely nothing, in terms of like telling
Mhm.
me what's actually going on
So
behind
get
the
crystal
scenes.
clear on that for
And
yourself,
number
everybody
3,
listening.
yeah. And number 3 is, hmm, you want to do that one? You have one? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do number 3. Number 3 for me would be eating healthy is definitely the where we wanna focus, right? But when you do have that goal in mind, and you said number 1 was specificity, I think eating healthy is also about making decisions that when you have a weight loss goal are somewhat calorie conscious, right? And the calorie conscientiousness actually often encourages people to eat healthy, which is fantastic. But without calorie conscientiousness, eating healthy gets you to a certain point and covers your bases, but it won't be enough to promote that weight loss, right? So when we say, is eating healthy actually enough to lose weight? It's enough to often get the ball rolling. It's enough to often help you maintain weight loss after the fact, too. It's enough to, cover like a lot of the health promoting benefits of weight loss, but it's not often enough to break through a plateau or to, make a significant weight loss on its own when you are choosing foods that are quote unquote healthy, but maybe not moderating the calorie intake of them.
Yeah.
Maybe that
Well
was
said.
kind of like a
Cool.
5 and 1. I don't know, but we got there.
Yeah. It's like a men's, body wash,
But yeah,
shampoo. It's like 30 in 1,
exactly.
face wash, body
Shampoo,
wash,
conditioner,
hand
yeah,
sanitizer.
all the
Yeah,
above.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, they're probably gonna come out with some like and protein shake version of that at some point. That's gonna be the next like 31st
Yeah, yeah,
benefit is
yeah,
like, oh, you
yeah.
can also use it for
Oh
protein because
my
everything's
goodness.
protein max these days. All right, everybody. So is eating healthy enough to lose weight? It's enough to get the ball rolling.
It could be
It
enough to
could
get the
be.
ball rolling.
It's
It's
not
not
guaranteed. Trust
guaranteed,
me, we've seen
Yeah,
it when clients come to us and they
yeah,
say, I've been eating healthy. I'm just not losing weight. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. If you want help figuring out what your own definition of healthy is and how to break through that plateau or get the ball rolling while maintaining a healthy diet and seeing your body weight change, because I mean, that's kind of like best of both worlds, right? That should be the ultimate goal, maintaining a healthy body composition and eating healthy. We can help you do that. Okay. So without further ado, we'll leave you for this week and we'll be back in your feeds with another episode of Truth Talks next Monday. Bye for now.
sweet.